As I'm recording this, and if you are watching this, you're probably feeling what a lot of us are feeling. That's uncertainty. Something is off, something is changing, and deep down, you know it too. Since I last spoke to you about gold and silver back on August 3rd, a lot has shifted. But one thing has stayed true. These coins right here. We've got an American Eagle Gold and we've got a silver maple. They're not just shiny. They are anchors in a storm that's only just begun. And the numbers, we're going to get to that. They tell the story better than I ever could. Welcome here for this urgent message. Let's begin where the proof lies, in the numbers. Because if gold and silver were not just shiny objects, they'd be easy to ignore. But they are not. On August 3rd, gold was trading around $3,360 per ounce. So you fast forward gold to October 10th, the day that I am recording this, gold is now hovering around the $3,960 to $4,050 range right now. The high was exceeding $4,050. So let me be clear. That's an increase of approximately 17 to 20% in just over 2 months. Silver too, not to be overshadowed. This is a Canadian Maple 1 ounce and this is an American Eagle 1 ounce. Starting on August 3rd, when I made that last video, these were about $37 per ounce. Now, October 10th, these coins are trading about $48 to $49. That's a jump of 29% or more, just a little bit more in the same time period. That's just over 2 months. Now, take a breath because that matters. Meanwhile, the US stock market, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 over that same window, they've clocked out some modest gains at best. When you compare it to inflation and what is going on with the dollar, and we're going to talk about that, even when we factor in dividends, their growth is dwarfed by what gold and silver have done. But have you really heard about it in the mainstream media? Not really.
Why is that?
And the US dollar index, so what the index is just a basket of the world's currencies that the US dollar is compared to. It has softened. The dollar is leaking value. And that downward drift is one of the hidden catalysts helping precious metals shine. In many cases, gold's rise is the inverse reflection of the dollar's weakness. So in other words, gold isn't just all of a sudden getting more expensive. It's because it takes more of our fake paper money to buy the same amount of gold. So when you see gold up 17 to 20%, silver up 29% like I'm showing you since the last video I made, and the dollar dropping in value, it's not a coincidence. It is the market whispering truths that most people are not going to hear, and even if they do hear, I know from the comments section, people refuse to hear. As you can see, if you had your money in the US stock market, in the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, your return was not very good over this time period comparatively, right? So what we need to do is look at what is the best hedge against what's coming next. In the rest of this video, we're going to talk about why this is and what the major players, we're talking central bankers, we're talking big investors, we're talking sovereign nations, what are they doing and why is this happening and what can we protect ourselves with going forward? So let me leave you with this thought. When real assets like this 1/4 ounce piece of gold or this whole tube of silver, there's 25 silver maples in here, And these, by the way, are approximately the same value right now. Interesting, huh? So when these assets are outperforming all the safe paper assets in one of the most volatile markets in our lives, it's not just luck. That is a signal. This isn't just about numbers, it's about real value. And the truth is, all fiat currencies are dying by design. That's not hyperbole. This is not just hype on this. It's actually history. When a government needs more money than it earns, what does it do? It prints money quietly, endlessly, until the purchasing power of the dollars or whatever, euros, yen, whatever currency you're using, it slips away like sand through your fingers. That's why even if you get a raise at work, even if you find something on sale, it's still a lot more than it's costing you a lot more than it did several years ago, because it's just the value is going away. In 2025 alone, central banks around the world have increased money supply by staggering amounts to plug holes in everything from energy subsidies to defense spending. And the result? Your money buys less. While gold and silver, they just keep pace with the reality of the situation. Does that make sense? I want to tell you a little bit of a story from history. I want to take you back to ancient Rome. Now, this is a Britannia from jolly old England, and it's another 1 ounce silver coin, but we'll just pretend it's a Roman coin. So as the empire expanded and their expenses ballooned, Roman emperors began diluting their coins. Less silver and more base metals. So at the start, the denarius was made out of silver and gold. And as the years went on, and this took time, just like in our age, this is taking time, right? We disconnected from the gold standard in 1971. This is not just overnight. This has been calculated. It's a piece by piece attack on the value that our money has. And it's going away quite rapidly right now as you're seeing the gold and silver going up astronomically. So over time, the people caught on. Their coins were worth less. That's where we get that word, worthless. They become worth less. So instead of silver and gold, it had things like copper in it and tin. And the trust began to erode and the economy crumbled. Does that sound familiar? The methods have changed because of technology and other things, but in the end, the result, it's playing out again right now on a worldwide scale this time. And the consequences, they're not just economic, they are civilizational. Here's something most people aren't paying attention to at the least, and the major media is not even covering this. But central banks around the world are buying gold at record levels. And not just these little coins, they are buying the big bricks, right, that you see on the movies. Those large bricks are being bought up. We're talking kilos and tons of gold. Listen to this. In all of the world, the reserves have increased by over 400 tons of gold in just the last quarter, in 3 months. Why? Because they know. They absolutely know that our fiat systems are teetering. This was the long plan. And they know that we're heading towards a monetary reset, one that we haven't seen in generations, maybe ever. And you won't hear this on the evening news, but the smart money, the big money, is moving now, and it's going to leave everyday people holding the bag. So I think that you should move towards this too. And if you don't know where to start, I've linked my trusted online gold and silver dealer in the description below. I've used them myself for years, and I only recommend what I trust. So now we get to the $1,000,000 question, or should I say the 1,000,000 ounce question. When a major currency collapses or inflation spikes beyond control again, when trust in government completely evaporates, or when nations openly question the value of the dollar in trade agreements, what happens then? Nobody can say for sure, but this much is certain. Those who hold the real assets, we're talking gold and silver that is in your hand, no one can digitally change the value of this, because this is real gold and real silver, and it has its own value. In fact, everything else is set from that. By holding these in my own possession, I will have options. I will have freedom. I will have security, and I will have leverage. And those relying on just digits on a screen, they're going to be caught in this storm because it's on purpose. If you're watching this right now, you are not too late. I felt that way years ago when I started, and look at what has happened. I want you to hear this. In fact, you're early compared to the masses. Once this actually gets out and people start getting into this, the mainstream, the people that have all of their money in mutual funds and the stocks and all that stuff, if they flood that money into this stuff is going to go up in value astronomically. But every day you wait, the purchasing power of your dollars is shrinking. Over the last couple months, it's even gone down. Every ounce of gold or silver you acquire, that's preserving what's yours. That's wealth that you have for your future, and you're going to thank yourself for doing that. And no, you don't need to be rich to start. Start small and start where you can. I started actually with just a few silver coins, right? Because these right here, like I said, about $48. If you can, buy one. If you can afford more, get more. Don't go into debt to do it, but get some every month or every couple months and just keep doing it and adding to your supply. And that's exactly what we've done. So again, I've dropped a link below to my recommended online dealer, and they ship discreetly. They're trustworthy, and they make the process easy, even if you're brand new to this. When I first started investing in precious metals, I didn't do it because it was flashy. I did it because I was tired of being lied to by inflation reports. Inflation is fake. It's just a word they made up to explain the devaluation of your money. I was tired of being lied to about the manipulated markets by one politician saying this and then, oh, this stock goes up or this stock goes down. By policies that punished savers and rewarded debt. Gold and silver don't lie. By the way, you can actually own one of these tubes. You can buy it as a tube, and this is 20 American Eagles inside this tube. And you can buy Canadian maples, actually 25 in a tube. That's why they're a different size. But gold and silver don't lie, and they don't default.
And they don't default.
And they don't get printed. They can't just make more silver. They have to mine it. They have to mine the gold. And they don't vanish in an artificial market crash. Remember the tech bubble from around the year 2000, where everything, oh, it's all about tech, and then boom, right? It just artificially all was pumped up and just fell apart. They just sit there, and they're quiet, and they're timeless, and they're not corruptible like all of these other things are, including what I know people are going to comment back, like things like Bitcoin, stablecoin, all of these digital things that they are going to trick people into going into. And those things are absolutely corruptible because they are digital. They are not a real holder of value the same way. When everything else is uncertain, that's exactly what you need. You need something that is. I did not want this video to sound like an infomercial for gold and silver, but it's such a serious thing for me, and I really do believe that we are coming into a monetary reset, and it will be worldwide, one way or the other. So what are you going to do? Are you going to keep hoping that it'll get better on its own, or start taking steps to protect what's yours? And you don't need a fortune. You need a plan. And you need to act before the headlines catch up to the truth. Click the link in the description to get started with gold and silver and start taking control of this devaluation of our money. Because this isn't about getting rich, it's actually about staying free. I want to thank you so much for being with me to the end on this special gold and silver. Boy, these are amazing, and it's so nice to actually physically hold these in your hand, because you know that someone can't just press a button on a screen and change the value, or they can't just inflate it away. In fact, inflation makes these rise even more. So thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for your comments. Those are exciting for me to read every week. And if you have comments on this subject, I'd love to hear them. I would love to hear if there's something better that you're doing. What are you putting your resources in that you are looking forward to it protecting you long term? So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.